I am Doomsvince, and this is day 44 of Spawn Year.
As I expected, as soon as today's comic flew up from out of the grave, as they do every day, the jacket attacked, hoping to rip it to pieces before I had the chance to read and review it. I wonder if it knows what it's doing, if it knows that if I'm unable to write about these comics, I'll be buried with the rest of them, and then the thing that repels it so violently won't be back to bother it again. That sound it makes when it's around Spawn items, it's horrendous. I feel sorry for it. We're both doomed to be defined by Spawn, thanks to Doomsvince. But the way it affects us, I need Spawn to survive, and it must avoid Spawn to survive. Makes us natural, unavoidable enemies. And so here I sit on my jacket, listening to its muffled, pained, sick cries for mercy, as I must force it to stay in such close proximity to today's comic, just so I can write my critique without fighting it. I feel ill at mistreating a living creature this way, even as I can't be sure if anything here is truly real. I don't know if it can understand me, but I have apologized to the jacket. But this is a matter of life and death, and I have no choice. I only hope I'm not somehow making a grave mistake by treating the jacket this way, as we discover Spawn has by trying to rid himself of his costume. We find here that things have not been as they seemed, and that it really wasn't Spawn's costume that attacked and mutilated all those people, but that it was Sangster himself framing Spawn. Sangster came to New York with the express purpose of turning everyone against Spawn and other supernatural entities we find, like Violator. When Twitch does some digging on Sangster, he manages to trace him all the way back to 1704 and discovers his real name is Jean Sans Coeur. Sangster finds that Twitch has learned his secret, so Sangster gruesomely twists his body into a bloody pretzel and stuffs him into a file cabinet for his partner Sam to find. Presumably, we'll find out his condition next issue. It seems that Sangster himself is actually a vampire, and he pins his crimes on other monsters by hiding in the open and hunting them. Unfortunately, he's not very smart about it. What sends Twitch researching Sangster is that he keeps painting Spawn as a vampire, even though none of the bodies he allegedly killed had their blood drained. Meanwhile, Sangster raided a blood bank to feed. Sam and Twitch are suspicious because those crimes don't appear to be committed by the same perpetrator. Why doesn't Sangster drain those bodies of blood, as it would make his assessment of Spawn more convincing? This strikes me as flimsy plotting on Moore's part, as much as I'm enjoying some of the ideas in this comic. In my defense, since I didn't call the twist that Spawn really isn't responsible for those deaths, I never assumed the costume killed them for any reason other than just being compelled to do violence as it's evolving. The book gives off the impression that it was telegraphing Letha didn't commit the murders because no blood was drained, like the reader is supposed to be suspicious that someone else is responsible from the beginning. But Violator killed when we first met him for no good reason. Why should I expect any being from hell needs a rationale for murder? As much as I like the idea of Spawn struggling against the evil, vicious nature of what he is now, which honestly, he's still doing, we learn from Violator that Letha feeds on souls, even if not blood, I realize that having a costume he can't live without, that he can't stop from killing, would probably make it difficult to keep any longevity to the Spawn comic. Somehow he has to get back to a status quo where he isn't being hunted by the police and a psycho vampire and everyone else, or every story would just be one long chase, and you might as well rename the book The Spawn Identity. But I think this frame-up story could have been imagined more carefully. It's all too convenient that Sangster shows up at the precise time Spawn starts blacking out, and is vital to making this story work, because it's all about Spawn learning how dependent he is on this symbiotic hell creature, and he has to believe those murders are his fault if he's going to try to get rid of the costume. And Sangster is too generic for my taste. His scheme is pretty elaborate for his response to Spawn's question, "Why are you doing this?" to be, "Because I can!" A monster who kills other monsters is interesting. Most of Spawn's enemies are fellow creatures from hell whom he fights because he resists the terrible force he swore to fight for in his desperation. This would have been a great opportunity to give Spawn an enemy who is also a kindred spirit. It's also a little convenient that Violator just happens to be hiding away from Sangster in the exact drainpipe Spawn picks, but he's kind of fun this issue, while being here mostly for easy exposition about Spawn's costume. I like that when he disguises his face with makeup, Clown says he looks like Danny DeVito. It's funny and a little ironic that when he puts on sunglasses, he can almost pass for Tony Twist. Well, dear reader, I leave you now to contemplate my impossible circumstance and the jacket. Where did it go?